Welcome to the devotion for Thursday, June the 8th. Hope your day is going well. Before we look at today's scripture, I want to ask you to be praying for the Starkey family, Jacob and Brooke and Zach and Penelope. Okay, we are looking at Genesis chapter 20. And, there's just times you read something in the scripture and you go, really? I mean, it's like, okay, this is like a rerun of Genesis chapter 12. God calls Abram, and he obeys God in faith, and he follows him. And they go to Egypt, and he says, he says to Sarai, tell them you're my sister. Otherwise, they may do me harm to take you. So this happens. God delivers him. So here we are, and a lot has happened along the way, and years have passed, and we come to chapter 20. I think it's what you have to realize is that God had to use people who had feet of clay, because we all have feet of clay. And that's not to make excuses for our sin. But there really is, when I think about the Bible, there's very few characters that it talks about that eventually it doesn't reveal some of their flaws. Some people just barely mentions. Now, Daniel's one of those guys that seems like as much as it talks about him, he seems to remain true to his faith. But here is Abraham and Sarah, and they're going to head south and meet up with King Amalek. And Abraham says, she's my sister. So he takes her into the harem. God, in his mercy, comes to Amalek in a dream and says, don't you touch this woman, or this is what's going to happen to you. So Amalek, here's as far as we know, a heathen king. And so he comes back to this man that he's heard of, this righteous man, and he says, why have you done this? Why did you tell me she's your sister? Instead of your wife, and all the harm that could have come to me. And there's kind of this classic statement, I guess it's a fact, the boy I sure can relate to, even in my personal life. Well, she is my sister. It's like she's my half-sister, okay? So, I told you part of the truth, even though the fact that she is my wife. How easy it is for us to do that in our lives. If we can tell half the truth, we feel like it's okay, right? But ultimately, we know we're covering things up. And I think this might be very important in a lot of ways. The Bible has a lot to say about lying. And I don't know, it seems like more and more maybe certain sins, even within the church, have become more and more acceptable. At times, some people just seem to feel like, well, it's okay not to tell the truth. And, again, I mentioned 2 days ago, we've sort of got these big sins. They're the homosexuality, the sexual depravity, the abortion, the other things, and then there's other sins. And so Abraham lied here. God, in his mercy, spared Amalek. He spared Abraham. He spared Sarah. What do we take away from this? Lord, teach me. Help me to walk as a man or a woman of integrity. Help me to walk in faith and not in fear. I mean, you stop and think about Abraham for a moment. What was he doing to his wife? He was trying to save his skin without even caring about what happened to his wife here, what he could have been putting her through. So we need to, again, live and say, Lord, examine my heart, guard me, protect me, help me to live a life that will honor you in everything. And when I'm faced with the tough circumstances, help me to trust you and trust you to be my defender. So hopefully this will help us and be something that we will think about in